Hey everybody, this is Perch. Let's get to this mail. It says, "Hey Perch, I have an odd favor to ask." Well, here comes a commission of a drawing of feet. I've been waiting for this moment, and I gotta admit, I've been kind of hoping for this moment. It's exciting that I finally entered this space. So let's see what kind of feet this person wants. It says, "Hey Perch, I hope all is well with you and your family." Kind of a weird way to start a mail out when you're asking about pornographic pictures of feet. I have a weird request for you. No, nothing like that. Okay. Recently, a comic artist who, for anonymity's sake, we'll call Don Lifeguard. Don Lifeguard. Okay, I feel like this is a obvious reference to somebody that I should know. Um, I don't know. Okay, Don Lifeguard, who has been saying he knows for a fact that Marvel and DC are struggling financially. I pointed out they're both profitable, and while their current models, Marvel more so than DC, aren't great for long term growth, and they could and should be making more, they're not actually in the red. Don Lifeguard responded to me demanding facts to back up my claims because, quote, "we use facts around here." But hang on, he, we use facts around here, but the fact is an opinion. His earlier fact is that I know for a fact that Marvel and DC are struggling financially. That's not a fact. That's a hypothesis, a theory, or an opinion. That's not actually a fact. A fact would be here's the bullet points underneath. In the last annual report, their EBITDA numbers are below margin. Their cash flow balance is out of whack. I mean, those are the facts, and the conclusion would be they're struggling financially. But anyway, we use facts around here. Okay, so back to the mail. He didn't provide any facts of his own, and I am pointing out that he has an itchy trigger finger on the ban button. For what it's worth, just as a general statement, if somebody has an itchy trigger finger on the ban button, you ban that bitch first. That's what I say. Anyway, can you make a video showing Don Lifeguard that Marvel and DC are actually profitable? Thanks. Man, I feel really stupid because I really feel like that's an obvious clue. And I'm thinking about the lifeguard. I like this is a it's a word that, man, I please help my stupid brain. Who is this person, and what kind of dumb shit am I wading into? Like, is this a case where I'm blind item responding to something, and then this becomes the next episode of Trash Cast? I whatever. Like Don Lifeguard would not be Eric July. Somebody did that once to me. It's like, can you explain to me why, Edwin April is wrong about something? Like, okay, that's not even trying, but I really feel like I should know this one. Anyway, all right, whatever. No, I can't make a video showing. Well, let me put it to a different way. There aren't facts, true, honest facts that would successfully counter this argument to the point that the person would say, "You're right, I was wrong. I admit I was wrong." And the reason why there aren't those facts is because the comic business for both Marvel and DC roll up under kind of basically a subcategory in an annual report. So you can get your hands on an annual report and you can get some data out of this, and you actually can get enough data to definitively say, it's not running at a loss, these businesses. You can get enough of that. But you do have to make some assumptions. And so as soon as you make some assumptions, it is very easy for, somebody who's kind of wanting to pick a fight with you to go, see, you didn't definitively prove to me. It's kind of like, and I'm not a massive Harry Potter fan, but there are a couple lines in there. I've read those books to my kids, and there's a couple lines that stick out for me. One of the biggest is, and I'll go quickly here. I think it's in the last book. And the kids, the Harry and Hermione and Ron, are having an argument with this guy who runs kind of trash newspaper. I think it's something Lovegood, right? This the dad, and the dad is basically making up shit. And when presented with the like, that's ridiculous. What's your proof behind this? And how do you prove this? The guy's like, prove to me that it's not true. And that line, that whole bit sticks with me a lot because that's how a lot of arguments, especially on the internet, go. It's like, I'm going to say something outlandish. It's like, well, that's clearly crazy based on common sense. And it's like, prove to me that I'm wrong. And, prove to me that it can't be this. And no, it's like, it's kind of like saying, in the springtime, your grass is going to start to grow again after winter hibernation, and it will be green. And somebody's like, oh yeah, prove to me that that's the case. It's like, well, yeah, that's what happens every fucking year. It's like, well, not in Alaska. It's like, oh, okay, you jackass. Anyway, so so what's going on with comics? Like, how can you say they're definitively profitable? Well, a couple ways. First off, you do know enough about this business to know the margins in comics for the publisher. So, publisher puts out comics. The comics then are get printed by the distributor. Costs taken out, prices taken out of that part of the process. Goes to a retailer. Retailer sells it for the suggested price, EMF RP. So that's and there's margin taken out of these pieces, but this is known. So you can kind of back into all this to say, in a $4.99 comic, the manufacturer or the publisher in this case, is backing into about $1.30 of that comic. And then, there's pieces that go to the printer, pieces that go to the distributor, and then there's costs. And so, but you could just kind of sit down with yourself and a calculator and you could say, all right, let's just, this is what a financial analyst or a consultant, if you hired McKinsey or Bain or BCG or KPMG or one of those douchebags to basically take a look at your business, are going to take a look at your competitors. Now, obviously, your competitors are not going to hand over their financial records to you. So you have to do some analysis, and you have people who are, financially good at this that can kind of tell you, here's what the business is worth. It's a little bit like when a company is valued for an acquisition, depending on the type of acquisition. It's not like the acquiring company walks in and goes, tell me exactly what you're making, how much profit I'm going to make on this, and that's what I'll make my offer. That's not how the business works. You have to do some assessment based on generalized facts So the way you would do it for the comic industry, you'd say, okay, well, Marvel puts out 80 books a month, let's say, in just a pure floppy business. And let's say there's an average, run rate of 40,000 copies per book. Their average rate for all the books together is slightly higher than that, but that's what you got. And then you go 40,000 times 80 times, in a month plus, times the margin. And then you can say, all right, here's your basic incoming. And now let's look at your costs. And you can, again, there's plenty of information out there around what artists are paid, writers are paid, variant covers are paid. You can basically back into what you get. And you can say, okay, a strike line for a comic book might be 18,000 copies, 22,000 copies in order to break even. If the average is above that line, then we know they're making a profit. And then we can get into the graphic novel reprint business, and we can get into the licensing business. And, weirdly enough, in the licensing business, you can actually get really precise information based on the annual reports and other things, because that goes in a separate line item. So you can actually get a really clear picture of what's happening there. Now, I once used this in an argument, and the person came back with I said the comic business, not the licensing business. It's like, yeah, but the revenue all flows to the same place. So, I mean, what are we arguing? Are we arguing that the specific comic business and only the comic business of a company that makes more than just comics is bad? I mean, again, we can go down that path if you want to, but that's not exactly fair, right? If you're trying to assess the business, you're trying to assess if the company is profitable. I don't think anyone in their right mind would disagree with the notion that comic books should be making more money. Absolutely, they should. No. I mean, I don't know. Is there an argument about that? I don't think so. I mean, you have to be a real idiot to say that, you got a multi-billion-dollar media business going on, and you have a comic business that is, again, if you back into the math, you can say, all right, maybe in the pure periodicals and trade and kind of reprint side of the business, you're clearing your Marvel. In the US, you're somewhere around 125 million, and then you can back into that going, our expenses are 60. I mean, I'm throwing numbers out, but that's kind of the range you're talking about. And then you say, okay, internationally, he's going to add another 100 million there. And, so you could start to kind of back into this. Common sense will tell you that it's a profitable business. Common sense will also tell you it's not a wildly profitable business, because you can go further back in time to the 80s and the 90s, and you can actually start to get really precise numbers around the newsstand and the returns, and you can actually really see exactly. And before it was purchased by by Disney, you can actually get an annual report, and you can see exactly what the profit loss of these companies are. We'll do a video on that. And then you can just kind of back into, okay, well, price has gone up, costs have gone up, distribution has gone up. Gone down. So here's different parts of the business, but you're still going to net out in the black. You will not net out into a wildly profitable, amazing business. until you start really looking at the licensing, and then you can start to make more of an argument that there's more there. But that's basically how you get into it. But I said all this, and if you're listening to this, you're waiting for me to go, and in March of 2025, on this week, they did precisely $1.9 million of sale with $1.2 million of expenses, which nets like I'm not going to be able to say that because those numbers are obfuscated in their annual report. So yes, if you really want to believe they're losing money, you can do that. But then we get to you in order to do that, you have to believe. And I like the statement you have to believe because it helps clarify an argument. You would have to believe that Disney is willingly losing money on this business. And then you have to ask yourself why. And you might say, well, to support the movies, except that really makes no fucking sense because, with such a small distribution, that would be the dumbest marketing they could possibly do. Then you could say, well, it's incompetence. They don't know that they're losing money. Yeah, except they do. I mean, the financial analysis in big companies, particularly public companies, is not just the wild west of not caring about finance. And then you can go, well, they're so woke. They're so woke that they just want to lose money just to screw it to the white dudes. And that's kind of the dumbest of all, honestly, argument because that's saying, hey, here's a giant soulless corporation that is intentionally just fucking with people, and being unprofitable in the process. Plenty of them, by the way, fuck with people because that's kind of what they do. But they do like to make money. So long story short, are Marvel and DC in the black? Yes. Is it a great business? No. Should it be better? Yes. Is it worth kind of getting to the nickel and dime of exactly how much profit they're making? No, not really. Do I know who Don Lifeguard is? No, but I'm going to feel like a real idiot when you tell me in the comments. Anyway, there you go. Thanks for listening.